Hi, everybody. We're here at the Tampa show, and we told you we would come back to you with some ideas on how to buy an RV and what to look for. Uh, Jerry and I were at the RV show yesterday, and we talked to a lot of people who were looking, and so we thought this would be a good time to give you some ideas. I recently read an article in Trailer Life, November issue, and it was written by Stephanie and Jeremy Puglist. Not positive how to pronounce it, but their last name is Puglist, and it went over a lot of good ideas. It starts off by saying that you need to decide what your towing situation is. Go ahead.
Well, we looked at first thing we decided to look at yesterday. We went to an outdoor world zone, if you want to call it that, at the show, and just took a look at Cougars because we own a Cougar and just wanted to see what was new in the model. We're not interested in another Cougar, just something to compare it to. And I was totally shocked to see that. Well, this one's 12, 13 years old. It weighs about 8,800 pounds dry, maybe 10,000 full. And even the smallest Cougars nowadays are 12, 13, 14,000 pounds. And I bet you that has a lot to do with the increase of amenities into it. We also noticed, surprisingly enough, that ours has a lot of windows. I think we got 14, 16 windows. These had very few windows, but our conclusion is the amount of slide outs determine the amount of weight. And we have only one slide out. I don't know. I was also surprised, like Mary was saying, is some of the advertised weights, our lengths. You know, first thing she was saying is our neighbor had a fifth wheel. He was talking to me yesterday, and he said, I traded it in because I wanted to do state parks. And, it was 36, 37 foot. So he went out and bought himself a 30R, whatever the nomenclature is, thinking that it was 30 foot long. He goes to the first park and finds it's 36 long. And he says, I traded in a 38 for a 36, and I still can't do state parks.
Yeah, when we're referring to the model number. You'll go up to a trailer outside the door. There's a model number 30 RKB or 32 FB something or other. And that typically indicated years ago the length from the front of the trailer, from the ball to the bumper, or fifth wheel from the front to the bumper. And that's not quite true. What they're doing is they know you're looking for a 30 footer, and you walk into one and say, my gosh, this is so much more roomy than the one I just saw. Well, that's probably because one of them is 34 foot, one is 32 foot. So watch the actual lengths of the trailers.
Another thing we realized as I went into them is that when you went into one model, whether this be a Cougar or whatever it is, and if you didn't like not the layout, but the ambiance of it, what the coloring of the walls were, what the coloring of the carpets were, the type of fabric, that was throughout the entire model line. So if you go into a trailer, no matter what brand you're looking at, and you don't like the fabric, the color of the wood, the type of wood, you're probably better off going to check out another brand versus try and find something different in the same floor plan.
Going back to the article, so the very first thing it suggests is that you know your towing capacity. If you haven't a tow vehicle yet, they suggest you look for your RV first, so that once you pick out your RV, you then know what tow vehicle you need. Having sold RVs, I can tell you that that's great in an ideal scenario, but a vast majority of people coming in to shop for an RV already have a tow vehicle, and they have to work with what they already own. They own it because they're in construction or because they have SUVs or whatever in their lifestyle, and so that's the tow vehicle they're going to use. So when you're doing that, this is a good book to refer to, and it tells you what your vehicle can tow. But in an ideal situation, if you don't own either one, I definitely agree, shop for the RV first.
Yeah, as we discovered that most of the RVs and the fifth wheels we're looking at are right on the border between a 2500 and a 3500. Our particular one, like I said, is about 10,000 full, and 2500 would easily do it if I had a 6.4 engine. Mine came with a 6.0 engine, so you also have to look at your engine sizes within your truck weight limitation, 2,500, 3,500. We
Yeah,
looked
that's a
at
good
one
idea.
yesterday that said half ton, and I'm looking at it, half ton, and it was the model number. It was on a Cougar, half ton. And I said, wow, 1,000 pounds. I mean, half a ton is 1,000 pounds. What does that mean? And I walk around and find out it's a 12,000 pound trailer. I'm saying, half ton. Well, they advertise that as the tongue weight,
Right.
which doesn't mean a lot. It just means it's still too heavy for my truck.
The next thing the article mentions is to consider what you're bringing with you. You're bringing kayaks, motorcycles, bicycles, extra kids, whatever you're bringing with you. And Jerry and my case, we don't bring sporting equipment with us, but it is good to know where you're going to do that and how you're going to pack those things when you're looking at your storage.
Yeah, we got lucky with our Cougar. Our Cougar has a what they call an expandable bumper. You pull the pins, it slides out, oh, about 4 feet, and we were able to put in some storage units, storage containers on it, and we're able to use that as a extra storage area.
They also talk about deciding how you're going to use your RV. There's, a lot of different ways of traveling. Some people are going to national parks and state parks and they want to stay under that 30-foot magic number to get into the majority of the parks. Other people aren't going to any RV parks. They're boondocking and they're not as concerned about the length. Others want to get into off-roading areas, and so maybe that is a concern. I used to deal with many, many people that were using their motorhome or their fifth wheel to go to car races or horse racing, going to some sort of a show that they were staying in fairgrounds. Okay, that was my phone, and now it's Jerry's phone ringing. Somebody's trying to reach us. We're going to continue this. Another thing to consider is what are your must-haves and nice-to-have. What would you consider your must-haves?
Well, the must-have is slide out. You must have a slide out. I mean, a lot of these don't have slide outs nowadays, but it adds to the width of a trailer quite extensively, and definitely one. But some of these new units have up to 3 or 4 slide outs. Just remember that a slide out is going to add 500 to 1,000 pounds per slide.
Yeah, easily 1,000 pounds per slide.
We have one huge slide out where many of these have 3 or 4 smaller ones. And what puts the weight is all the I-beams that it takes for a slide out to go out.
I think the other must-have for me is I would not personally consider buying any motorhome or fifth wheel or tag along for that matter that blocked when the slide outs were in. I want to be able to reach my refrigerator, my bathroom, and my bed. That's personally a priority to me. We do stop along the way, and even though we might be at a rest stop that has a bathroom, we often prefer to use our own bathroom facilities. We also do when we're traveling and deadheading someplace, we're just trying to get there. We do often stop at a place that's convenient, be it a Pilot or a Rhodes rest stop or someplace, and we don't put out our slides, but we spend the night. So we want to be able to get to our bed. And again, that goes for when we're traveling. It's easier for us to make our own food sometimes than to use a fast food chain. And that's the reason why I want to get to my refrigerator.
Right. As Mary was saying, often we don't look for spending the night on the side of the road at a Walmart or any place like that, but it happens frequently because of area fairs, events. When you're traveling into an area you don't have reservations ahead of time, you often get hung up in one of these places, and you can't put your slide out. I mean, you cannot in most places because there isn't enough room. So we can get into everything with our slide-ins in. We can get into the bathroom, the refrigerator, the stove. It's a little tight, but we saw some yesterday that by the time you put the slide in on the left, you put the slide in on the right. It's like a sandwich, an Oreo cookie. You can't get down the middle of it. We saw that in one case the refrigerator was accessible. The stove was not. None of the seats or the chairs were. And again, we can go into a rest stop, spend the night, leave our slide in, and even our heat will go on because all the vents are still open past the slide out, so we actually run the heat.
That's a good point. It's a good point.
We run the heat. Well, can't run the air conditioner, but the heat will run all night long on your battery.
Right. The other thing that seems like a strange must have, unless you think about it, is we have windows. I think you may have already mentioned we have 14 windows in our unit. Um, there are less and less windows the more wonderful things they're packing into these RVs. But I myself get very claustrophobic when there isn't windows. So to me, windows are a definite have, but you have to decide
What's
what are
best on
your
you?
must-haves and what is nice to have. To me, a fireplace is a nice to have. Um, a fancy two-door refrigerator is a nice to have, but the traffic pattern in the trailer is a
She's
must-have.
right. I just counted them. We have 11 windows. But what we have is this nice. Here it is in central Florida. It's 80 something degrees with all our windows open. We get a nice breeze through
Cross
all
breeze,
cross
right?
breeze. It's cool. I laughingly looked next door to us yesterday and we had one called The View. And it had one window in it. And I said, I don't know what they have a view of, but it must be something. But
I'm sure it was beautiful inside. It just struck
right.
us a little funny that they
But
didn't have any back window in half the side of
oh,
their.
only one window on this side, but he had to run his air conditioner and his generator 24/7 because it got so hot in it.
That being said, that's one of the units we're going to go look at. So who knows?
Oh, I got one
Maybe,
last one.
maybe there's.
What I thought was most important to me, and I didn't mention this, is the size of the freshwater slash in comparison to the size of the gray and the black water tanks. We have plenty of storage for black and gray waters because we have one black tank, two gray, but our storage for our freshwater is lacking.
Yeah, our freshwater storage limits how long we're going without being able to fill up. While we're talking, I want to tell you that it may seem silly, but please, before you buy a unit, really, really check it out. Step in the shower, move around as if you were taking a shower. I can't tell you how many times that shower head isn't tall enough for the people who are planning on using it. Um, Sit on the toilet. Uh, Again, go through the steps as if you're actually going to be using this. Have your whole family sit at the dinette. How about the television? That's one of our pet peeves. We enjoy watching TV when we're in the evening, but we want to be able to have our sitting arrangements facing the television. So sit down and do that. Even go as far as pretend in the kitchen what you might be cooking and where the things are going to be. Um, Bring in the slides. We've already talked about that, but bring in the slides so you see how it's traveling, what is reachable when the slides are in. Have anything else to add?
No, I think that was the most important. They'll sell it to you with the slides out. It all looks hunky dory. The last thing is read that label on the side. Every third or fourth trailer will have a model line showing you comparison 32, 34, 36. Read them all carefully. Read the weights very carefully. And to be honest, take what the dealer is saying with a grain of salt as far as what your vehicle can pull, because we've known many friends that have blown engines because it was such marginal weight slash pull.
Mm.
They didn't make it.
Yeah, margin is important. It can definitely tow it. They're not lying to you, but you have to go back and say, how are you traveling? If you're towing it, you're at your maximum towing of your tow vehicle,
You don't want to go up a
and
hill.
you're heading over the Rockies. That's not enough. You want a cushion there when you're in mountainous areas. So definitely double check the towing capacity of your vehicle.
And lastly, any of the tow, we're at a 2500 HD. The newer trucks actually have better towing capacity than the olders. But also check your Department of Motor Vehicles. Many times when you go to a 3500, it becomes a commercial class, and there are different costs or different taxes. There's different restrictions on it. So just check if you're going for a 3500 or higher, check your motor vehicle for what their restrictions are and your town taxes.
We hope these ideas help you. We're heading over to the show now.
Yes, we have our new T-shirts on. We're heading over to the show,
If
and
if you're on the show fairgrounds and you see us, please stop and say hello.
ring that bell. I've been trained to do this. Subscribe, ring the bell. That's my job.
And may you enjoy wherever the road may take you.
Right. Safe journeys.
Safe journeys.